Let me ask you this. So the secret is what introduced a lot of people, including myself, to kind of the concepts of the law of attraction. I remember where I was when I read that book, and I devoured it a dozen times and then watched the movie and found new mentors through that, like Mike Dooley and other people. Bob Proctor, I really liked, was sad when he passed away a few years ago. So that introduced a lot of us to this concept of the law of attraction. I think it was interesting, not to get into this, but there was a lot of politics involved with Abraham Hicks. And the one thing that occurred to me is that I had kind of read some Abraham Hicks just before that, but I didn't really equate it to necessarily the law of attraction. I just thought their books were fascinating and channeling, Abraham and whatever they were doing. But they kind of introduce a lot of people to the whole concept as well. But this is a concept, as you know, that's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, maybe from the beginning of humans walking this earth, this concept of your thoughts becoming things and attracting your circumstances and events in your life. Why did it take until 2006 and The Secret for this to become a household term, the law of attraction? And why, and related to that, you can answer them both together if you want. Why is it that no one had said the name Neville Goddard for 50 years or whatever, or he died in the early 70s, I guess. And all of a sudden now, every 20-year-old knows who Neville Goddard is. They're all on YouTube, as you know, and they're all on TikTok, and they're all doing all this stuff. And they're shooting out Neville Goddard. Now, how did Neville Goddard become a hashtag when he was so obscure for so many years? Why is it? And it could just be my algorithm, obviously, bringing to my attention things that I like Neville Goddard. Maybe that's why it's always showing up. But it seems to me like the average kid at the mall knows who Neville Goddard is all of a sudden, and they think it's hip to talk about him. How did this come about? Why did it take until 2006 for people to start shooting off the law of attraction and focusing on that? And how is Neville Goddard everybody's spirit animal all of a sudden? I don't understand.
Right. Great question and observations. I mean, so we'll start with the Neville thing and then go into more of the, I guess you could say, the historical context, because the Neville thing, I think, fascinates both of us. I do think part of it's the algorithm. Neville, right now, I would say still not being that with the current social media scene, even though I'm on YouTube or whatever. Neville does seem to be one of the bigger manifesting teachers we hear about, which, as you mentioned, is just totally wild because he died in 1972. Having reached his peak popularity in the mid 50s. And then, the Promise made him much less popular. So I think there's been a wide, array of reasons for it. But, I was briefly the moderator, and I know some of the former moderators of the Neville Goddard subreddit. And there's I think over 150,000 members on that subreddit, which is a big number to give. That it indicates, again, the popularity, especially apparently with younger people who are into manifesting ideas. So I can't give all, on some of my videos, I have a whole Neville Goddard playlist where I do try to discuss some of the current social media scene around him, because I think it's awful, quite frankly, and pretty much a great example of spiritual bypassing in action. I think a big reason is Neville's language is so evocative, and people are into this idea of literally creating their own reality and everything being a simulation. All of these concepts kind of have become very hip in this, I don't know, in the last 5 or 10 years. And then with Neville, there's this whole SP thing, special person, specific person phenomenon, where if you read his lectures or hear his lectures, he's really not speaking about it in the way that it's taught online, where you can manifest a specific person, that you want, and basically manipulate yourself into a relationship with them. Those type of ideas, creating your own reality and being able to manifest a romantic partner into your life, especially a former romantic partner that you're no longer with, really attract desperate people. And there's a lot of good marketers out there that have taken advantage of it to kind of exploit Neville's very deep teachings in this very superficial, marketable way that a lot of people have bought hook, line, and sinker, which is not to say that some of the advice out there is not very good in regards to, relationships or, creating your own reality, if you want to use that term.
Mhm.
But it's very, very watered down compared to what Neville said. And the truth that you don't hear online, any place pretty much, is that Neville's advice is not going to work well for the vast majority of people who try it. And all this stuff we see on YouTube and TikTok and Reddit talking about success with the law of assumption is really just marketing crap and people having no idea what they're talking about and with very little life experience. I've got nothing against teenagers getting into these ideas. I think it's great, but we're literally talking about teenagers, expressing their ideas and making it seem like they have life figured out when they're 17, 18 years old, which is cool. I get that, but they're going to be in for a rude awakening. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's absolutely bizarre. I wrote a few Neville books, like Relax More, Try Less, Mindful Manifestation, and Manifestation Through Relaxation back in 2015, 2016. That was before all of this. And my hope at that time was that Neville's ideas were so cool. And they did kind of, meld together with like a lot of these things we're hearing about now in regards to artificial intelligence and simulations and all this stuff. But his ideas are so cool and they were so underappreciated. I was hoping they'd start being taken more seriously by like the mainstream psychological and counseling community. That's why I wrote those books. That has not happened that much. It's happened a little bit, perhaps, given all his popularity, but mainly we just see this insane marketing push with Neville's ideas. Now, I'm giving you a very long-winded answer here, Spencer. I don't know if you want to say anything.
No, that's okay. No. I'm enjoying this. Thank you.
In regards to the law of attraction, when The Secret came out, this is my take on that. I vaguely remember. I remember watching the Red Sox in the playoffs, and I don't know, maybe glancing at The Secret, the book version of it or whatever around, I don't know. Yeah, whenever, 2005, 2006, something like that. But I didn't get into these manifesting ideas until like almost 10 years after that. I never took it that seriously. Mm-hmm. The Secret, kind of like Neville these days, to a much larger level, right? Because The Secret sold like, I don't know, in book form or whatever,
crazy
like
amount.
that 25 million copies, 30 million copies, something nuts like that. And it's great. I mean, it really did that, man, that was good marketing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of people would argue it was all marketing.
Exactly. And you certainly could. I see that viewpoint. I think if you get into these ideas, you might think that. But the truth of the matter is it did expose so many people to these old teachers and ideas that otherwise would not have probably been exposed to them, right?
Yeah.
However, as you pointed out, these ideas have been known about for eons, right? Probably throughout human history. And what people don't understand is these ideas have been very, very, very popular before. Like, the whole New Thought movement and then like associated movements that aligned with it were really big in the early part of the 20th century, late 19th century, and then early 20th century. People were filling massive auditoriums talking about this stuff. So to say that this like came out of nowhere is just to be kind of, oblivious to the history of it, which is understandable because there hasn't really been that much historical research or, engaging books written about it. One exception I can think of is Mitch Horowitz has written a couple good books about kind of the history of New Thought and the law of attraction, particularly in the United States. But people just aren't aware of like the historical background and how these ideas have really been discussed in some form or another, particularly in the United States, constantly since the late 1800s.